2 weeks ago, we purchased Webinar Jam. We hosted a massive webinar with over 1,600 people registered. And today, we returned it. In this video, we're going to tell you why.
So we had a giant webinar that we called our Project 24 webinar, and the webinar was a huge success. I mean, it was crazy how many people we had in attendance. It was awesome. But we used Webinar Jam software, which we did find a lot of positive things about, but not enough positives to keep the software, and we did end up returning it because it did have some major problems as well. So this is just our honest review of the good and bad with Webinar Jam.
Should we start with some of the good things about Webinar Jam?
Sure, we'll keep them baited a little bit to find out what went so terribly wrong, because something did go so terribly wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like the customer service friendliness as we talk to the people. Like, I had to talk to support several times, and they were always super, super friendly, which was great. One thing I liked.
I also thought that for webinar software, all the general webinar features and functionality, specifically like the registration, sign up, all that worked appropriately and flawlessly. And honestly, for a webinar software, compared to some of their big competitors that are much, much more pricey, they have the features.
And, we had people register from all over the world.
Yep.
And it figured out the time zones and stuff with very few issues we heard about. That all was very good. The other thing I loved about the registration and the communication with our attendees was text messaging. This was huge. We had you had to put in your name and an email. You had to have, and then you could add your phone number if you wanted when you registered. And we had maybe 40% of the people who registered put in a phone number. And that was huge because right when the webinar was starting, they got a text message saying, get on the webinar. And I feel like that just dramatically increased our attendance rate. So thank you, Webinar Jam. Awesome feature.
Yeah.
They also just had it was very feature rich. You can show your screen, you can show your webcam, you can upload your keynote or your PowerPoint slides, whatever, to it. Very, very feature rich software.
Yeah, absolutely. So the functionality I had no problem with, but the capabilities I had no problem with. But there were definitely some downsides.
And one really big one. The video quality was terrible. I mean, it was awful. It looked like it was like 2 frames a second. Like it was just blurry, and the audio and the video were not matched up. And at first I thought, okay, there's got to be something wrong I'm doing with the settings. And so we tried lowering it from HD quality to SD quality as we were doing the webinar. Didn't really make a difference. And then I thought, maybe it just doesn't work well on the Mac. So you tried it on your PC.
Tried it on my PC.
Same thing.
Yep.
We have extremely fast internet here. I'm pretty confident that was not the issue, and it showed me 4 bars. So I really don't think this was a bandwidth problem. It just did not process the video well. We tried different things and could not get success.
Yeah, just for comparison's sake, during the second session of the webinar, we ran a YouTube Live on his cell phone.
Yeah.
And the video quality there was so much better for most. In fact, I saw one person who said, actually, it's better for me on Webinar Jam. Everyone else said, no, go over to YouTube, it's better. Go over to YouTube, it's better.
On that session of the webinar,
it's free.
It started with like 500 people, and as soon as we said, this is also on YouTube Live, like half of them left and went over to YouTube Live to go watch there.
So, I think that was the big killer, because
it was a killer.
It frustrated a lot of people. There were people who
frustrated us more than anybody.
No, but honestly, there were people who I know, took off work so they could attend a webinar, to meet one of the 2 times that we set, and they were there. They tried for 30, 45 minutes. And some of them said, hey, I've been trying for 45 minutes. The screen freezes every 10 seconds.
Yeah, for somebody who cares about their business very much like we do, that is infuriating. That's just absolutely maddening. So we did email customer support about this, and they did respond asking, so this is what happened. I will be more specific. After the first, we did a test webinar. I emailed it to them. I emailed them the link to the replay, and I just said a very simple email. I said, this is the quality we got from the webinar. is this the best quality we can expect with Webinar Jam? And the response I got many hours later, which is frustrating when you have a webinar coming up, you need a response quick.
Yep.
The response was just an obviously canned email that they'd obviously sent thousands of times to customers that complain about quality, just saying, fill out what kind of PC you have, what version of your browser you have and stuff, which I get they need more information. That wasn't what I asked. If they would have just simply answered my question and just said, yeah, honestly, that's the best we can do right now, or no, you can do better work on your setup, that would have been so much more helpful. But they didn't. They sent this canned response, and so it ended up taking days to try to get to know if it was us or them.
Right, and we didn't have days, and that leads me to kind of the next big issue, was the customer support. And while you said they were extremely friendly, but on the other hand, they weren't responsive. They weren't quick to respond.
Right.
The only support option they have is email support. And, the times that we emailed them, it often took them several hours, 6-8 hours to respond back.
Which would be fine. I want to make the point. Which
Right.
be fine for a lot of products and a lot of things.
Yes.
But this is an expensive product, and it's a webinar.
Yeah.
We have thousands of people coming, not 2 weeks from now. So
Right.
we really need some help. So for a product like this, I really felt like for this product, at least a chat support would make a big difference.
Right. Some way to get a hold of you quickly.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
something's on fire in my business. Somebody needs to fix this.
There's no phone number anywhere for Webinar Jam. It's all 100% just email support. You fill out an email form, and then they'll get back to you whenever they get back to you. Which also was another issue for us, because what you may not catch when you sign up is that the account that you sign up for allows webinars up to 500 people. And you may think, well, that's probably going to be plenty. I probably won't have more than 500 people attending a webinar.
That's what we thought.
That's what we thought. And then 1,600 people signed up.
Uh-huh.
And we thought, okay, well, I guess we need to go upgrade our account.
We searched and
I
searched.
searched. I spent over an hour looking for a way. There's nowhere on their website, anywhere, to upgrade your account. I emailed them asking, how do I upgrade my account? And I never heard back.
Right.
And
yeah, and I eventually did hear back after the webinar was over.
Right.
And so it's a good thing that we had YouTube Live, because that was able to send some people to YouTube Live so we didn't crest the limit.
Yeah.
But man, I think about what would have happened. We would have just
got
lost
close.
that business.
Yeah.
That's not cool.
Again, people who took time out of their day and planned to attend a webinar, who, if we hit the 500 mark, the next person just doesn't get in.
Yeah, and again, to be clear on support, a few hours support time is totally fine for many products.
Yeah.
But for a very expensive product and a webinar where it's happening at a time, and usually people are needing help as they're setting up the webinar, it's coming up, and I just realized there's a problem. Boy, a chat support option would have very much changed my opinion of the software.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was the big problem, but there were other things that were just buggy. We'd upload our keynote, and we'd wait 10 minutes.
Slides. Oh yeah.
Nothing would happen. Then we changed it to a smaller file format, a PDF. We'd upload it, and then we'd go click to a share screen or something, come back, and poof, it's gone. It's just gone.
Yeah, that was the thing, is we took the time to upload the slides before the webinar. Now, fortunately, we did this during a test, because we wanted to be able to switch back and forth between video, screen share, and slides, so that you could see the slides nice and big on your screen. Well, as soon as we switched from slides to screen share, or when you went back, the slides were gone. You had to re-upload them. Well, we're not going to do that mid-webinar, which made it so that we couldn't use the slides. In fact, we had to do we just did video the whole time, and actually just projected the slides on the TV behind us. But if we didn't have that set up, we wouldn't have been able to do the webinar the way that we wanted to do it.
Yeah, that's right. And we found the same thing on several different places in the software. We would enter in the information for the text messaging, and it'd be all set. We'd have our custom message, and then we'd come back 2 hours later, and it's gone. It just poof. Everything was poofing
Good thing we checked.
all over the website. Another thing is, it probably does say it on the website, but at least I missed when we purchased, was I didn't realize we were going to have to purchase another service to handle the text messaging.
Right.
They just interface with that. So that's just something to be aware of. But again, it probably does say that on there. So overall, Webinar Jam is good software, has great functionality and stuff, but the one thing it needs to do is get our video to the users, and that's what it did worst. That was the worst thing that it did.
And you might think that, well, maybe it's just the video, right? Our video quality is too good, which, you even said we reduced it to standard definition quality, and even then it didn't fix the choppiness. Mm-hmm. Well, I tested it out with just slides, with uploaded PDF slides, and we tested it out. My wife's watching it, and it was just as choppy. Mm-hmm. The audio, the video, it was... obviously, there's going to be some delay. I get that. But not only was there delay, but it was choppy. It's like the 2 frames a second kind of deal.
Delay is another thing there. There's a noticeable delay between what you do
about 30
and
seconds.
The user engagement.
Yeah.
And the problem then is when you are on the webinar and you're trying to get some soft closes, you're trying to people get in like, does this make sense? Can you see how awesome this is? And nobody says anything in the chat, and you're like,
it's 30 seconds before they hear
something's
it.
going wrong, I'm doing bad, and then like 30 seconds later the messages pile in and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Whereas something on like YouTube Live,
it's instant.
Bang!
Yeah.
It's right there, and it's just much more fluid of a conversation. So if I were to do a webinar today, what would I do?
Well, honestly, we would probably just go host it on YouTube Live. When you host a video on YouTube Live, all of your subscribers get a notification if their notifications are turned on.
And you can schedule them in advance.
Yep. I think the only real downside to YouTube Live, it's not perfect. It's video. You don't have all the features of a webinar. Mm-hmm. But I think maybe what you miss out on a little bit is the registration, people signing up ahead of time, and
that would be a little bit more manual. You'd have to send out the text message manually, the email manually. So if you're doing webinars all the time, that's not a great solution. Right. If you're doing one webinar every once in a while to launch a product or something, I'd probably just go with YouTube Live.
Yep, I would agree.
And the other thing I want to say is I've used lots of other webinar solutions. They're all terrible. They're all terrible.
Video streaming should not be this hard.
It shouldn't. It's 2018. It shouldn't be that hard, but I've tried.
Look at the
so
quality
many.
of this video. You can see the pores on my face. Now, obviously, we're not live streaming this, but come on.
Yeah, it should be possible to just at least get your video out there.
Yeah.
All right, so that's our review of Webinar Jam. Again, I do think it is worth taking a look. There are a lot of worse options out there.
Absolutely.
That and one other we forgot to mention is you have to buy Webinar Jam, and then you buy EverWebinar if you want to use it as kind of a evergreen kind of webinar and stuff. And that felt clunky to have these two totally different brands and how they interface and stuff.
Yeah.
Let's just bring it together.
Yeah,
webinar software.
They interface totally seamlessly. You go host a webinar on EverWebinar or on Webinar Jam, and then you want to go do an EverWebinar. It's like, oh, well, you can just choose from one of these that you already did, or you can upload a video. They interface seamlessly. Just make it one product. Mm-hmm. Why complicate the matter?
Yeah, agreed.
Yep.
Thanks, everybody, for listening to our complaints and our good things about Webinar Jam. When you're ready to get your website started, go to incomeschool.com/new. That's our full tutorial on how to get WordPress set up, how to pick your site name, how to put in our plugins that we recommend, and just get started with your site. Thanks, everybody.